the people. It's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the power's even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind. Caress the mind and question justify. With you and God in time, my best align.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and White House correspondent, joining you from the White House today, where I am in touch, and so you be in touch. Be sure to stay connected by following me on social media at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ, and there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or just tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580, and there we are for your listening pleasure. Last but not least, subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way, you'll never miss an episode. Might I add, it's A More Perfect Union powered by KBLA, and that way we'll always be connected. Now, listen, it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, the New York Times is reporting that President Trump signs off on sending the National Guard to Memphis. That's right. President Trump just yesterday signed an order creating a federal task force and authorizing the use of the National Guard to crack down on crime in Memphis over the concerns of local Democratic lawmakers who are wary of a surge of policing from Washington. Speaking from the Oval Office alongside Governor Bill Lee of Tennessee and the state's two senators, Marsha Blackburn and Bill Hagerty, all Republicans, President Trump said the task force would be a, quote, replica of the large show of police and military force currently on display right here in Washington, D.C. President Trump said that he would also consider sending federal law enforcement officials to Chicago, St. Louis, and New Orleans. Details were scarce on Trump's plans for Memphis, which he announced days earlier in an interview with Fox News. But the president said multiple federal agencies would be involved in addition to working with the state and local law enforcement in Tennessee, as well as Mississippi and Arkansas. It allows for the mobilization of National Guard units at Governor Lee's request. What's so interesting to me about this is that a week or so ago, we saw Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson during a press conference really sort of shine a light on the gun problem, but it's just from a different angle. Many of these same states are a major source of illegal guns that are going into places like Chicago. And so he had called on the president to convene these red state governors and to fund the ATF to do something about the illegal guns that are being trafficked into places like Chicago. There's no word on any action related to that, but we're going to continue to keep our nose on that. In other news, USA Today is reporting that Fani Willis must remain off Trump case after the Georgia Supreme Court rejected her appeal. The Supreme Court of Georgia is leaving in place an appeals court decision that disqualified Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis from prosecuting President Trump because of her romantic relationship with a special prosecutor on the case. The divided September 16th decision comes after Willis appealed to the state's highest court to allow her to remain on the sprawling election interference case. Willis' office also brought charges against Trump and several other co-defendants alleging that they participated in a conspiracy to overturn President Biden's 2020 election victory, including by replacing the presidential electors for Georgia with Trump supporters. 4 Georgia Supreme Court justices came together to form a majority in the decision to turn down the appeal. 3 justices dissented. 1 further justice didn't participate in the decision, and 1 justice was disqualified. Just to give you the play-by-play in terms of how this all went down, the decision leaves in place a December 2-1 ruling from a 3-judge Georgia appeals court panel that Willis couldn't remain on the case due to her romantic relationship with Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. That decision threw the prosecution against Trump into doubt. And who is the TikTok American buyer? President Trump says the U.S. will be announcing that soon. USA Today also reporting that the United States will soon announce a buyer for TikTok. The president added that he has had parents calling him up about the platform, saying, quotes, they don't want for themselves, they want it for their kids. They say, if I don't get it done, they're in big trouble with their kids, and I think it's great. That's what the president said, end quote. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said today that he anticipates the final deal on TikTok when Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping meet on Friday. Bessent added that China had a long list of asks when meeting with Trump in Madrid. On Monday, he further described the negotiations as fulsome, conducted with great respect. The next deadline for China to divest TikTok in order for the platform to remain accessible in the U.S. is Wednesday, September 17th. That's tomorrow. The date was set by President Trump, his executive order back in June. So who will it be? A lot of folks' suspicion is that it will be Larry Ellison. And what makes that interesting is that his son, David Ellison, who leads Skydance, the company that just bought CBS Paramount. Can you imagine having CBS, Paramount, TikTok, all in the same family, maybe even Warner Brothers, some people say? Who knows? Who knows? But when we come forward, we're switching gears. I'm really delighted to take a break from the rough and tumble of politics and take a gaze at history with a historian that you're going to love to meet, Dr. Brandy T. Summers. She's a historian. She's a sociologist. She teaches at Columbia University, and she's done a lot of work around Black land loss. You all know I've been working on the special project, the Black Land Loss Narrative Archive Project, and Dr. Brandy T. Summers and I have a chance to geek out a little bit. I think you're going to enjoy it. More with her when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Do Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms keep coming back? Tremfya, guselkumab, may help, with rapid remission achieved at 12 weeks and lasting clinical remission at 1 year. Some even saw visible improvement of their intestinal lining at 12 weeks and 1 year. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active Crohn's disease and adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Healing is possible with Tremfya. Approximately 3 out of 10 patients were in endoscopic remission at 1 year, based on areas visualized on colonoscopy, which may not represent the deeper bowel layer or entire GI tract. Individual results may vary. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Hit me! National news, the consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and it's always fun to welcome a fellow from the Bay Area, Dr. Brandy T. Summers. She's Associate Professor of African American and African Diaspora Studies at Columbia University. She first caught my attention through her research, which examines the relationship between the functions of race, space, urban infrastructure, and architecture. It should come as no surprise to our leaders, learners, and listeners that I've been really excited serving as journalist in residence for the Black Land Loss Narrative Archive Project. And I've been talking to the descendants of Black folks from across the country who've experienced land loss in all of its forms, forced sales, all sorts of eminent domain uses, et cetera, et cetera. And so to help us get a better grounding, a better grasp of just how pervasive Black land loss is and what this says about the state of our union, please welcome Dr. Brandy T. Summers.
Thank you so much for having me on. Yes, always good to talk to fellow Bay Area folks, regardless of where we are in the world. I feel like we always find each other. So
I think you're right. I think you're right. And so, Dr. Brandy, let's set the table a little bit. Your research really touches a lot of third rail, certainly in politics. Facilitating a conversation around race, space, urban infrastructure, and architecture. What attracted you to this work and applying a multidisciplinary lens to this work?
You know, that's a great question, I think, for professors when we are doing a lot of research. We get to talk about it when we give talks, when we're giving lectures, but honestly, this kind of work really spoke to me because I was from Oakland and because I was able to see all of the different changes that were occurring, especially as it related to the impact of various policies. So I was born the year Prop 13 came about. And so I've only known that life. But at the same time, I could recognize, even when I was young, how there were more public amenities for people in Oakland. I grew up in East Oakland. And you start to see with the impact of the state and increased surveillance and increased militarization of police and how that was affecting Black people. I saw that growing up in a profound way. And so when you start to recognize the same patterns occurring in other locations, you start to wonder, what is this all about? And is it based on that kind of narrative that folks so often have when it comes to Black people, that there's something wrong with us? I know that's not true. So I wanted to seek out ways to better understand these structural conditions that impacted how we were able to move and not move. So my first book was on Washington, D.C., and thinking about a lot of these same questions. For my second book, I'm coming back to think specifically about Oakland. In some ways, it's nostalgic, but in others, I learned so much doing research on these kinds of topics.
Yeah. And these sorts of topics are not new. I have been really just blown away at the pattern and practice of land theft, of stolen wealth, the weaponization of eminent domain by government, federal, state, and local. Talk to us a little bit about how we got here, because it's no coincidence that whether we're talking about Oakland, parts of Los Angeles, parts of Washington, D.C., there are Black folks that feel a clear and present danger, clear and present danger to their neighborhoods, to their land. And right now, we have a former developer as president.
Yes.
And my suspicion, is that things could get a whole lot worse before they get better.
Sure. And will definitely. I believe that. I think it's a really important question to ask. And that way we have to really separate a lot of terms that often end up getting kind of smushed together. So we can think about land, we can think about property, we can think about public versus private spaces, we can think about owning versus renting or leasing. And a lot of these terms end up being used to, in some ways, create a barrier to entry. So if we think originally back when settlers came in and essentially colonized the United States and used incredibly violent measures to take over, that land was not theirs, though they claimed it. They set up laws to recognize their own forms of ownership and really establish who was able to own property outright, who was able to develop land and thereby become property that was used to exchange capital rather than for people to just live on it and cultivate it and have this symbiotic relationship with it. So when it comes to enslaved people being stolen and brought over to what became the United States, there are ways that we've historically known how to have this relationship with the land where again there's a form of cultivation that takes place where it's not extractive. As we started to come into a place when emancipation freed all of those who were enslaved, the assumption was that we were supposed to know outright or at least have access to land and property. And yet that didn't happen as easily as I think people assumed it would be or it would happen. Or also, nowadays they're trying to change the history books and make it seem as though it was such a passive and peaceful process. But we see how people who were identified as property at the same time were not thought to be able to manage, purchase property, maintain it. And so you have sharecropping arrangements, you have convict leasing arrangements where there are punitive forms of maintaining this kind of closed off nature that Black people had to owning land or having land. If we if we really jump to the 20th century and think about how our relationship to the state and thinking about whether it's welfare, public housing, or even land that's passed down, oftentimes because they're seen as these material for profit, there is a way that Black folks are often devalued, and therefore the property itself ends up, the land ends up being devalued just for the simple fact that we have it. And that process can take place in so many different ways, but eminent domain is one of the more common and violent tools that's used to justify theft or to justify this idea that Black folks don't have rights to a particular area, or they can be compensated based on the value, which of course is depreciated because they're Black. It's a lot to understand, and I think it's important to understand the breadth of it, or else we won't be able to make claims. And to also be very clear about how we as Black folks should not necessarily seek to own property, like to privatize it so it's individually owned, but to instead come up with different models for ownership or different models for stewardship, different community models to make sure that, again, we're not completely upending whatever progress that we could have towards building community, but also not decimating the land itself. Like at a certain point, the land's not going to be have any utility because of all the chemicals, or if we think about the impact of global warming, climate change, all these things are making it so the land's not actually going to produce what we need to survive. So it's being aware of the history, but it's also being aware of how we want to use it in the future, and we want to adopt a different model.
Dr. Brandy, are there any examples that you've come across in your research of eminent domain working out well for Black people? Because so far in the research that I've done and the conversations I've had with, again, descendants of folks who've experienced land loss, I've been hard pressed to find examples where the intent of that eminent domain where it worked out well for the Black community that was there before. And so if they say, okay, we need this land to create a park, we need this land to create, some sort of, public building or some sort of public space. I haven't seen a lot of examples of them doing that, where on the other side of it, Black people, Black communities who were there enjoyed that benefit. What have you found in your research?
So I think what you found is consistent. So where eminent domain is used to remove people or actual material structures is generally that land or that site that's not highly valued. They're not going to go into a neighborhood that has, incredible wealth and say, we need these houses to be torn down so we can build a park for the neighborhood, because there aren't any. First of all, the people with the wealth have more political power. They have more capital and influence, and they probably have more connections to be able to say, yeah, not here. Go down the road, go to the flatland areas and tear up their neighborhoods because they're not doing much with it in the first place. So it's still this kind of logic that the space itself or the land itself has to be productive and profitable. And if not, then it has to be for some common or public good, which goes above and beyond whatever needs Black people have. So no, I mean, unless eminent domain is used to get rid of an industrial area, and instead turn it into something that is going to be green space. Of course, that's problematic because of the toxins that are in the land and probably coming up from the ground. But those kinds of projects are supposed to be the ones that help the wider community. It's just that whenever something's supposed to help the wider community, somehow it is not a benefit for the Black folks. We are the last ones to actually.
Somehow, I wonder how that happens. I wonder how that happens.
So strange.
Just the strangest thing. The strangest thing. Let's talk about the work that you've done recently with the Oakland Museum. There's an exhibit that everyone is still buzzing about. I learned about it in an article that was recently published by The Guardian,
Right.
about Russell City, California. To our leaders, learners, and listeners in California and beyond that are not familiar with Russell City, never heard of it, tell us about Russell City, where it is, and why what happened in Russell City is an example of what's happened in too many cities, too many towns across the country, whose stories of land loss we may never know.
Yeah, it's really a heartbreaking story, but it's really important to know that it was recent. And so that means there are people who lived there and are still alive and can talk about that particular place that no longer exists, right? So it's where Russell City used to sit was now Hayward, the city of Hayward. And Hayward goes from a flat area up to the hills. And so Russell City was located in the flat area where it was, again, more industrial, and also closer to the water, closer to the bay. So in Russell City, it was diverse. However, there was a large percentage of Black residents who lived there, who owned their own homes, trees. There was, flora and fauna in Russell City. The thing that also matters is that Russell City was unincorporated. And that matters because it didn't have the municipal support or infrastructure that cities typically do. So that means no trash collection, by a city. They have to rely essentially on the county to provide them with services. And that's inconsistent. And so when it came down to how Russell City was able to function, of course, its residents were doing as best a job as they could, but also it was seen as this putrid space that wasn't clean or didn't have essentially the conditions that were livable. So Hayward decided that it wanted to incorporate it as Hayward and get rid of it. The issue, of course, is that there were homeowners there. So you can't just tell homeowners to leave. So mysteriously, there were fires that were essentially on people's property and taking down and tearing down their homes. This first started, of course, with the county and again, the city being able to control the electricity grid. So they were essentially able to prevent Russell City residents from getting what they needed, whether it's access to functioning water, like I said, electricity. So with these non-incorporated or unincorporated towns or cities, they're vulnerable to this kind of hijacking that can take place. So ultimately, the place was ravaged by fire, by what they call blight, by a kind of stagnation of resources coming in to support the people that live there. Again, what I say is fortunate is that people who came from Russell City and then later moved to places like Oakland are able to tell their story. And so at the Oakland Museum of California exhibit, the Black Spaces exhibit, there is healthy attention paid to what could have been if Black people were able to stay, were able to remain, what Russell City of the future would be if it wasn't taken from the people who, again, owned property, had homes, and were just destroyed by arson, essentially, and by neglect.
When we come forward, I want to talk a little bit about some of the recent movement work that's been taking place in California. In 2020, the state legislature established this 9-person reparation task force. In 2024, Governor Gavin Newsom allocated $12 million to racial justice initiatives and issued a formal apology for California's role in slavery. Is this enough? Is this enough? Or in this political environment, is there more that the governor, more the people of California, more the people of this nation can do to make these families whole? I'm going to get Dr. Summers' thoughts on this when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
The audience is listening, thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump has ordered the National Guard to Memphis, Tennessee to fight crime, a move drawing pushback from local Democrats. Black State Rep Justin Pearson is urging residents to oppose the deployment.
Militarized occupation of our city is not a resolution to the problems that we have.
Tennessee's Republican Governor Bill Lee supports the plan. Black Fulton County, Georgia DA Fonnie Willis has been permanently removed from Trump's Georgia election case over her relationship with Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. The Georgia Supreme Court refused to hear her appeal, though Willis says she'll turn over the case file and evidence to state prosecutors. And President Trump is threatening to retake control of D.C.'s police if Black Mayor Muriel Bowser blocks cooperation with ICE. He called his earlier 30-day takeover a success, while Bowser insists immigration enforcement is not MPD's role. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Ignite your afternoons at Waba Grill's $5 happy hour with our 5-piece pork veggie dumplings and a value-sized premium beverage drink, like our tangy passion fruit lemonade. Enjoy $5 happy hour weekdays after 3 p.m. Only at Waba Grill.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Rams coach Sean McVay made a surprise announcement Tuesday morning. McVay told reporters that he tore the plantar fascia muscle in his right foot during the Rams' victory Sunday at Tennessee. The 39-year-old McVay said his injury was confirmed after an MRI exam on Monday. McVay suffered the injury while jogging down the sideline to get a referee's attention to call a timeout. McVay might have to wear a boot cast for a few weeks, but he is not expected to miss any games. The Rams are at Philadelphia on Sunday. Top 5 college football teams in this week's top 25 poll: Ohio State, Penn State, LSU, Miami, and Georgia. 2-1 Jackson State is the only HBCU team in this week's Division I AA poll. Jackson State is ranked 16th. Alcorn State had the highest attendance for an HBCU football game over the weekend. A crowd of 49,158 showed up for Alcorn's loss at Mississippi State. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33 and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yay!
So many things, big and little, make you uniquely you. Your hobbies, dreams, career, family, and more. Addiction to drugs, including opioids and stimulants, can strip these away from you. Recover your life. Choose treatment for drug addiction and get back to what matters most. Find a provider and proven treatment option that's right for you at ChooseChangeCA.org. Recover you.
September is World Alzheimer's Month, a time to shine a light on a public health crisis that hits Black families hardest. 1 in 5 Black adults ages 70 and older is living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD, and it's not a normal part of aging. Early signs like repeating questions, missed appointments, even trouble handling bills might seem small, but they matter. The good news? There are treatment options available that may slow AD when diagnosed early. Don't wait. Visit treatalzearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com to learn more. This message is brought to you by AZI.
Hello, I'm Joe Cordell, founder of Cordell & Cordell. Divorce is complicated, especially when your small business or professional practice is involved. At Cordell & Cordell, we understand that these assets raise unique valuation and allocation issues. For 35 years, we've helped doctors, lawyers, and small business owners navigate divorce with confidence. Call us at Cordell & Cordell. Let me tell you, I understand on a personal level, your business is much more than a job. It's your legacy.
1455 Frazee, San Diego. CordellCordell.com.
Let's go!
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With work workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and she is Dr. Brandy T. Summers. She's Associate Professor and Director of Graduate Studies for African American and African Diaspora Studies at the Columbia University. If you have not read her work, I implore you to pick up her first book, Black in Place, The Spatial Aesthetics of Race in a Post-Chocolate City. It's a very important book. Also, her second book, Oakland Echoes, Reimagining and Reclaiming the Black City. That's another one that we want to get on our bookshelves. Dr. Summers, thank you for your body of work.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, appreciate you being here and helping to separate the fact from the fiction. Before the break, I mentioned that Governor Gavin Newsom has done something that a lot of other governors haven't done. In 2024, he allocated $12 million to racial justice initiatives and has issued a formal apology for California's role in slavery. We know that only scratches the surface in terms of the experiences that Black people have had in this country. Doesn't seem to be a lot of investment around making families whole, families who have lost land, who've lost property, who have lost big pieces of their history, branches of their family tree. Talk to us about the state of the reparations movement. Has reparations become a third rail, not just in California politics, but American politics?
Absolutely. And I know that you were also asking, is this enough as it relates to an apology? So I do recognize that there are a lot of people that don't realize that there were enslaved people in California. I think it's only assumed to be below the Mason-Dixon line and to only be really more east than and having any enslaved labor in the West, but there certainly were enslaved people. And so, to be clear, the reparations movement is something that's been over 20 plus years in the making, or at least it's certainly been taken up by other scholars, lawmakers, activists, etc. It happening, or at least it getting the kind of attention in California is really important. However, the city of San Francisco, for example, put together a team to really research similar effects in that area, especially as it related to urban renewal in San Francisco, gentrification, and other forms of displacement and dispossession that have happened in Black communities, even in smaller cities. And essentially, their findings concluded that Black folks just need to get paid quite a bit of money, I believe in the sum of $4 million, right? And so it's more so not just recognizing the lost revenue, or at least the profits that were not able to be realized because of the land that was stolen, but also thinking about Black labor and the conditions that Black people have been underpaid, and like you said, have had wages stolen, in addition to land being stolen. So the movements, I'll say plural, are still ongoing, but recognizing that state governments and certainly the federal government are not necessarily committed in the same kinds of ways to provide funding, money, to lost money to the Black folks who and their families who were impacted by various forms of racism beyond slavery.
And so we've done a look back. Let's do a little bit of a look forward.
Okay.
Where do we go from here? Again, based upon your body of research, we know that right now politically, uh, Black folks are experiencing, and folks of color, women, people, fill in the blank, are experiencing a lot of hostility from the federal government right now. We're experiencing an abdication of oversight and responsibility on the part of this Congress. We're seeing the courts too often cede ground to the executive branch. And so I suspect that means that when it comes to this work, state and local leaders' role has become increasingly more important. And so, where do we go from here? We know the arc of the moral universe is long; it bends towards justice. Doesn't feel like it's bending very much right now.
So, that's always a question I think that comes up for anybody doing this work when we dive into the past and try to tell a story about the present. I think what's important at this moment and ways that we're understanding what's going on is honestly that no one is coming. No one is coming to save us. So
there's no Calvary.
No, they're not coming. So we need to stop hoping that there's going to be some organized move by our legislators, by our leaders, whether it's political, cultural, or otherwise, to save us. So that means we have to come up with a different way. We have to recognize what's going on and understand that we are experiencing Jim Crow in 2025, essentially. So, what do we do as a result? We don't necessarily just advocate for new laws when we know that we're not in the political climate for that to actually make any differences. We're not going to rely on what is identified as law to justify or at least provide us with justice. We're seeing how courts are being taken over by these ideological, conservative, nefarious folks, and who are actively using race to target and contain us. So I think as it relates to the future, we have to really settle with that and have that settle into our bodies so we can come up with a plan, collective or otherwise, to chart a different path, to undo these kinds of structural conditions that have only caused us more pain. No, that does not mean that we're going to cast aside various forms of finding joy and community. In fact, I think finding the joy and community is what helps us keep our emotional and mental health going and staying on top of things. But ultimately, local organizing, finding ways to connect with people, education. I still think, I mean, yes, I'm a teacher, but I also think that if we don't have any clue what's been going on, we might do the same things over and over again. And instead, we could focus on those actions that have been effective in the past, not just from the civil rights movement. It's understanding prior to the civil rights movement that there were people who put their lives on the line to try to get Black folks free. We need to go back and understand the conditions under which they were living and the kinds of commitments that they made to one another to move forward.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. When I think of the Green Book, for example, the Green Book was a tool to keep Black people safe. But not just that, it was also a roadmap in terms of building and sustaining a Black economy, right? By going to certain hotels and restaurants and establishments, it wasn't just about, hey, you're going to be good here, but, we're going to take care of one another.
That's right.
And so a return to that kind of mindset, building that kind of muscle memory, I agree, is going to be critically important in the future. There are a number of things that we can do that also amount to justice. I was talking to somebody, and they said that, when people ask, what does justice look like? To your point, a lot of people say, oh, well, passing this law or, electing somebody to serve in this role. And in the work that I'm doing with Black Land Loss Narrative Archive Project, and I suspect some of the work that you've done in your research and in your writings, I think sharing your story,
right,
and affirming the stories of others can be a form of justice. No.
I mean, absolutely. And in some ways, it's more important now because archives are being disappeared. They're being erased. And so we're going to have to tell our stories so we can actually remain present, right? Present in the future. As part of the Oakland Museum of California exhibit, I worked with some amazing students from UC Berkeley, and we produced these zines that are open for people to take. They're free. And one of them is focused on essentially creating your own personal archive, your family's archive, making sure you detail and document your history, your family's history. Because again, we're seeing the ways that history is being manipulated, or only certain voices are being held to a particular standard, or at least dominating the conversation and the framing of our telling of history. And so it's going to be even more important for us to draw on what we know, who we know, these kinds of connections that have us essentially find kin across the world, really. So the threat is imminent, and it's also here, where all of our records are being destroyed. So we have to keep producing them. We have to overwhelm the system. We have to have those excesses in order to maintain and, like you said, to achieve justice.
Dr. Summers, in our remaining minute, I will never pass up the opportunity to ask a professor if there is any required reading you would offer to our leaders, learners, and listeners. If there was an assignment, if there's just one assignment that you would give us following this brilliant conversation, what would it be?
What a wonderful question. I think I need to take that to the classroom. I'm going to steal it from you. So honestly, there are a number of areas, like I have so many things I would love for people to read. One of the more brilliant thinkers I found, he's actually British Jamaican, is Stuart Hall, and his work on understanding not only Blackness, but in particular thinking about empire, thinking about capitalism, understanding conservative versus liberal versus progressive, understanding terms, I think is really important. And so I would encourage essentially everyone to find Stuart Hall's work and apply it and realize how to apply it to our lives. He's my favorite overall. And I think he's someone that everyone should read.
Stuart Hall, we made a note of it. That is our homework assignment.
Yes.
And keep it coming. We hope to have you back on the show again soon. This topic of land loss is just one piece, one of a whole body of research. I also want to encourage folks to check out an exhibit that you were a part of curating over at the Oakland Museum of California. Next time I'm home in the Bay Area, I can't wait to see it in person. Yes. And just can't thank you enough for your contribution to the canon of work.
I am so happy that I was able to join you today. And also, this is a great conversation. So, no, again, fellow Bay folks, but then also people who are committed, to the struggle. So hopefully it won't be a struggle forever, but, we are here ready. So thank you so much for having me again.
Thank you so much. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. Stroke risk may increase. Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding. Don't take if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or bleed longer. A spinal injection increases blood clot risk, which may cause paralysis. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or bruising, or back pain, tingling, numbness, muscle weakness, or incontinence. Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a black and brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, KBLA 1580 delegation, your health matters to us. We know that information is power, especially when it comes to prevention and treatment. That's why we're proud to introduce the brand new KBLA Health and Wellness Hub. This online space is built just for you, connecting our community to trusted health resources, culturally relevant care, and even access to diverse clinical trials and emerging therapies. Whether you're looking for information on common conditions, mental health support, or just want to stay on top of your wellness journey, we got you. And the best part, it's all on our website at KBLA1580.com. Accessible, empowering, community-focused. So just go to KBLA1580.com and click on the Health and Wellness Hub icon, because knowledge is power and your health is everything. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We're at the White House today, and it's time for the quiet part out loud. So many quiet parts out there, but nothing quiet about the life and the legacy of Robert Redford. The magnetic Hollywood icon and Sundance founder who died today at the age of 89. NBC News and so many other sources are reporting that the actor and director who sailed to Hollywood stardom, which turned into classics such as Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and All the President's Men, and invigorated American independent cinema as the founder of the organization behind the Sundance Film Festival. He died this morning at the age of 89. Robert Redford was perhaps best known as a go-to leading man of the late 1960s and 1970s, instantly recognizable for his hair and widely beloved for his easy charisma. But he's also an accomplished filmmaker. He's a committed political activist and a culture-shaping entrepreneur. He won the Best Director Oscar for the family melodrama Ordinary People back in 1980, the first of 9 stints behind the camera. But Redford's expansive spirit will live on through the Sundance Institute, a nonprofit organization founded in 1981 that sponsors the Sundance Film Festival. The festival held annually in snowy Park City, Utah, which showcases offbeat projects and has helped launch so many careers. Redford recalled in a 2018 interview, he said, quotes, "I saw other stories out there that weren't having a chance to be told. And I thought, well, maybe I can commit my energies to giving those people a chance." And Redford went on to say, quotes, "As I look back on it, I feel very good about that." Well, we feel very good about that. We feel very good about the legacy of Robert Redford that will indeed live on through the Sundance Film Festival and so many projects that he starred in and directed on the silver screen. One of my personal favorites, his film with Barbra Streisand, The Way We Were. I had a chance to watch that on a long flight overseas one day. And let's just say I'll never forget it. And I have a feeling that Hollywood, and even beyond Hollywood, American pop culture won't forget the heart and the genius of Robert Redford. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More in our next hour with 2 incredible filmmakers. What a tribute to the folks shaping the culture on and off the screen when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump has ordered the National Guard to Memphis, Tennessee to fight crime, a move drawing pushback from local Democrats. Black State Rep Justin Pearson is urging residents to oppose the deployment.
Militarized occupation of our city is not a resolution to the problems that we have.
Tennessee's Republican Governor Bill Lee supports the plan. Black Fulton County, Georgia DA Fonnie Willis has been permanently removed from Trump's Georgia election case over her relationship with Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. The Georgia Supreme Court refused to hear her appeal, though Willis says she'll turn over the case file and evidence to state prosecutors. And President Trump is threatening to retake control